We're going to watch a clip of Shelly Lomax discussing the tragedy involved with the Lloyd Center Max reconstruction debacle. As we know, this meeting was held on a Wednesday, by the way, and they already had the Monday debacle, which she addresses, but had not yet had the Friday debacle, which was the Max derailment. All in all, the Lloyd Center reconstruction was a huge disruption for people. I would call it a total failure. You know, they're never going to say anything like that, of course, but luckily most people really knew to stay off Max during that. The East Side riders, I'm sure, as many as possible drove if they had the option. As we all know, people that work in downtown don't really have an option to drive. They like to say, oh, they're choice riders, they could drive, but we all know that they're really not choice in the sense that, oh, I can drive my car downtown to work because there's no place to park for most people. There is no place to park in downtown, so most of the so-called choice riders are not choice at all. They have to take TriMet to get downtown if they're working in downtown. So that's kind of a bullshit thing, but that's how they present it anyway. Shelly Lomax is an interesting case. She's a quintessential example of bus driver made good, because she started at TriMet as a lowly bus driver and worked almost every single position in that place, all the way to where she is now, $188,000 a year, I think. I think it's pretty up there. Woman who never went to college, has no advanced education, fairly intelligent woman. I knew her when she was station manager. Definitely higher IQ than most people at TriMet, but sometimes we really wonder about her. I know she's a shameless careerist. We found that out as she took her new job here. Career's #1, and everybody below her is kind of like disposable as long as she's getting what she needs in her career. A lot of us have lost a lot of respect for her over the years. Anyway, we'll listen to her shtick. I'll cut in if necessary.
President, members of the board, good morning. I did want to first update you a little bit on the Lloyd District construction activity that we have underway, and again, apologize to our riders for the inconvenience of the shuttle bus. And I would.
You see in the background there, you see that's Shelly on the left and the infamous Jay Jackson on the right. I knew Jay Jackson. He was, when I was doing my grievance, he was the step one, I don't know, one of the steps. The first time you go to the first hearing, it's with a TriMet manager. You get to go appeal your case to a manager who's not the manager who's disciplined you. In my case, it was Jay Jackson, and no, he did not see it my way. I hear a lot of things about him. I didn't really know him very well. Actually, I didn't know him at all while I worked here. But some things I hear are not very kind. Anyway, that's Shelly on the left, Jay on the right.
Very honestly say we got off to a pretty bumpy start on Monday morning in terms of that operation and really serving our customers in the manner that we fully want to and expect. Nonetheless, this is a really important piece of the Max renewal program that we have talked about with you a number of times and is included in the budget and our capital programs moving forward.
The sound quality is particularly bad for some reason in this edition of TriMet board meeting. I always wonder about things like that, I know maybe I'm a little off the edge when it comes to conspiracy theories, but it's always curious when all of a sudden well, we can't quite hear what he's saying anymore,
Forward. I did want to bring Shelly Lomax up to give us a little update on where we are with all of that. So, Shelly?
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. I'm happy to be here and talk about a much improved bus bridge operation. As Neil mentioned, on Monday morning we began our service in a bus bridge operation where the line was severed at Lloyd Center, and we were using up to 20 shuttle buses a day to move passengers between the Lloyd Center station and the Rose Quarter.
Yeah, well, a lot of us didn't quite understand why it was really necessary to close the whole system completely for a whole week. I don't know anything about construction, but I know the reason that they said they gave for not using the weekend as part of their service shutdown was because it would disrupt the hotels. I mean, that's actually literally the truth. They actually claimed it on their Facebook site and they said it on their Twitter that they didn't want to disrupt the tourist industry, which which I found very funny considering that disrupting the commuters, the residents' lives was less important than disrupting the hotels and the tourist lives. Typical TriMet.
The initial service plan called for all of our lines to remain as intact as possible. So blue, green, and red would all be traveling into that same single track switch point at the Lloyd Center. The plan originally was developed with a lot of input from internal stakeholders, including very seasoned service planners, seasoned schedule writers, internal stakeholders, and the goal is the
Don't you love the way she uses the word internal stakeholders? Internal stakeholders. Why don't you just say employees? Because that's what you mean. The idea of they're stakeholders, they're goddamn employees. When you think of the word stakeholder, I never really did understand what a stakeholder is supposed to be. It's one of those propagandist type terms that they use so they don't have to use real terms. It's kind of one of those fuzzy, stakeholders. Everybody's a stakeholder, I guess, right? If you use it, if you don't use it, if you work there. Instead of saying our internal employees thought up this grand idea which turned out to be a huge failure, she's using the word stakeholder.
Of our goals, which is to be able to move our passengers with the least amount of service disruption. We knew the plan was ambitious, but it was believed to be achievable. It allowed for a 4-minute turnaround at a challenging crossover with a little bit more involved turn-back operation. But again, on paper, it worked, and the team wanted to do everything they could to have minimal disruption to our customers.
Well, that's an interesting comment she just made, because I'm informed by somebody who understands these things that particular switch can only be thrown every 4 minutes. You can't throw it 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. You can only throw it maximum value every 4 minutes. So in other words, they planned to have their turnbacks at the tightest possible time that you could throw the switch. They left no extra time at all. Basically, it's a setup for failure, because you're trying to achieve all of this in a 4-minute window, and there's another train coming in. I mean, really, I'm not an expert with these things, but it seems to me they planned it to fail almost by having no extra time set into that switch turn.
Based on the knowledge and experience of those involved, it was determined we would proceed with that plan, and so we set forth to execute that. On Monday morning, it quickly became apparent that the turnaround operation was going to take longer than the 4 minutes that was allotted. In fact, it was taking closer to anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes. When you have the number of trains we had scheduled to go through there on a single track operation, it isn't good math. It doesn't take much mathematical skill to figure out you physically cannot achieve what you've set out to achieve. By noon, even though the Transportation Division had made a number of in-the-field modifications to our service delivery, including streamlining our time through the switch points, it was clear there was no way that we would proceed this direction for the remainder of the week.
In other words, their planning was a complete and utter failure. There's no other way to put it. They planned a failure, and it failed, and it failed immediately. That's a management fail there. Okay, there's no other way to put it, and that's all it was their inability to understand their own system.
So we did what we do best. We rolled up our sleeves, we threw the service plan in the trash, and got around a war room table and figured out how to rewrite the entire thing.
So this is an interesting admission of guilt on their part, is that they had to throw everything in the trash and start over. Apparently, it also created ripples through the system insofar as they had to hold a whole new Max operator sign up to kind of coincide with their whole new war plan, as she put it, their war plan. You know, in real life, generally people get fired for making these kind of serious errors in judgment, creating so much confusion and difficulty in people's lives. There's usually a price to be paid, but not a TriMet. Nope. You just start over again. No penalty to anybody that planned this fiasco. I mean, if you're a driver and you piss off a passenger and they call you in the office and they give you what for, and if you do this again, you're going to be in big trouble. But when the management can disrupt the lives of literally tens of thousands of people because they didn't figure out something correctly, no penalty for them.
We spent the entire evening and into that morning writing all new schedules for every single operator who had already signed work and had plans on what they were supposed to do for each day that week. We made phone calls well into the morning, calling each operator and explaining our situation and asking for their partnership and understanding. And without exception, every single one said, look, if it makes it better for the customer, if it makes it better on the alignment, I'm there. Sign me up. I'm in. Our union president, very understanding, and again said, well, thank goodness, you know, you figured out how to make it better. So that was our path. We moved forward, and on Tuesday we executed the new plan, which I'm happy to say is working, knock on wood, it's working beautifully. We were able to maintain 15-minute headways on all lines except red throughout the day. Red, we moved to a 20-minute schedule. By severing red line and having it just loop along itself from Gateway to PDX, we were able to reduce the number of trains going through the Lloyd Center area enough that we now have a schedule that we feel confident in and can maintain. Doesn't mean we won't have blips like the bridge lift yesterday, but when those lifts happen, we're able to quickly adjust our service. So I think we're on a good path going forward for the rest of the week. There is nobody in the organization that feels worse about the impacts we had to our customers on Monday. That service did not meet the expectation of where we want to be or what we're typically proud of providing.
So she feels bad, so does Neil, and so does all the rest of them. They still got their raises, by the way. Let's see. Shelly was making $188,000 a year, so let's see what that 3% raise is that she just got. A nice $5,640 raise. So that puts her up to $193,000. So good job, Shelly. I'm glad you're upset that you didn't do your job, but you got your $6,000 a year raise anyway.
But we feel good about our ability to deliver service the rest of the week. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Please. What's the expected amount of time that we'll be using this process through the Lloyd District?
Through the rest of this week. Saturday morning trains we're expected to do our test trains, and the operation is supposed to be returning to normal.
So Director Stovall didn't even know that this was a one-week project. I mean, come on! You're supposed to know what's going on. You don't even know how long the project is. It's a perfect example of how ignorant these directors. They don't really know anything. I mean, shit, he doesn't know that one of the most important things going on at TriMet, that was the most vital thing going on at TriMet that week, and he doesn't know how long it is. Stovall, fail.
So through this week, and it looks like all construction's on schedule.
Excellent.
Other questions?
Just a comment. You did great. I've been in a situation before.
There's the union man complimenting. You did great. You did great. No, they failed, Esmond. Okay, it was a fail. They didn't do great. They did shitty. And I, for one, am getting sick of listening to this guy because he is turning out to be one of the biggest apologists on the board. I mean, this guy's turning out to be anti-Opal, pro-management worse than any of the other members of the board. I thought that guy was going to be good. He's turning out to be the exact opposite of what I thought. You did good. No, you didn't do good, Esmond, okay? Wake the fuck up, man. Maybe you had too much electrical circuit going through your brain.
In construction, not on the train, but you get ready for a shutdown of a major plant, and something happens, and you scramble. So thank you very much, especially with the construction project down there around the corner with those high rises. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
See, there he goes again. Especially with the construction project down there at 7. What the fuck does that have to do with them? Nothing. They're two unrelated projects that have nothing to do with each other. God, man, there's something wrong with you.
Good work. Great work, actually.
Thank you.
And before you leave, I want to, unless somebody else had another question on this issue, I just want to acknowledge you, J.C. Venata, and I think Alex Morgan for dealing with Mr. Kane's concerns. I think you...
No, there, Mr. Warner, president of the board. It's Alan Morgan. It's Alex Hawk, but it's Alan Morgan who you're talking about.
I have in the back of your packet some information regarding Mr. Kane's concerns about the Honored Citizen Pass, and again, people, quite frankly, refusing to give up seats for senior or people with disabilities. And I think you can see it was a rough start in terms of the dialogue with Mr. Kane, but I want to thank Shelly and Alan, I guess, are the ones really took the time to talk with him personally to address his issue. I think it's still not totally resolved, but at least we now fully understand his issues. So thank you. Please pass on my thanks and appreciation to everybody who's been involved.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, that was the, the cheerleader, rah, rah, shish, boom, bah, TriMet. That was their production. Of course, this meeting was on a Wednesday, and the really big fail was on the Friday when the whole thing crashed. To which TriMet's answer was, oh, we're going to give you a free ride on Max, and they forgot to. A lot of people actually have to take the bus first to get to, but it's public relations stunt. Yeah, okay.
We were just coming into the stop. We were going for my niece's birthday party, and was switching track back there, and we heard the first couple clicks, and all of a sudden this train started going this way, and that was it. He called up on the line and said, "I think we derailed."
And everybody screamed, "Are you kidding? We did derail!" And it scared all of us.
How many people were on the car?